Welcome into Locked On Phillies. Today, we're going through some of the betting odds, both for individual players and the Phillies team in general, and where I think you should lay your money. Also, we have our final four for the top 8 moments in Philadelphia Phillies history. And in our final segment, some information about a special way I'm going to be getting you guys content. So much to get into. Here we go.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And yes, I am your host of Locked On Phillies, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years over at 97.5 The Fanatic. Now happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, these numbers I'm going to jump into. First, I want to thank very much our sponsors over at Bet Online. They send us all these great numbers about the odds and availabilities for bets on the MLB season, but getting a bunch of stuff from the folks over there at Bet Online. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this segment. But of course, they want to win money. And I love the folks over at Bet Online, but I want you to win money. I want you to be able to beat them. I want you to look at their odds and know which way to go. So I'm going to go ahead and break down some of the numbers they've sent me and tell you where the smart money goes when it comes to the Philadelphia Phillies and some individual players on this team. So where do we start? Well, you look at this 2022 team, it's the only natural place to start. We're going to look at home runs and who has the best odds on the Phillies to lead the league in home runs. This is the entire league. This is not just the National League. This is not just the American League. Who is going to hit the most home runs in baseball this year? And do the Phillies have a viable candidate? Well, yeah, you know they do. Let's start with the guy where your mind first went when you think about home runs. Well, maybe he's not anymore. It's almost like he's forgotten a little bit in the shuffle of all the new players because we know he's great, but we might forget about his power when you look at Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber joining the team. But man, this guy still has plenty of pop too, probably the most out of anyone in this lineup. Of course, I'm talking about the reigning NL MVP, Bryce Harper. He is the Phillies' best odds player to lead the MLB in home runs. It's not a bad payout if you can look at it either. He has the 5th best odds in baseball, according to our friends over at Bet Online. Only 4 players ahead of him. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the top one in Major League Baseball, but right down there at 5th, Bryce Harper has 14-1 odds to lead the league in home runs. I'm not betting it. And let me tell you why I wouldn't. I don't think that Bryce Harper is going to have a down year. I think he's going to have another strong campaign. I think he could easily vie for a back-to-back National League MVP campaign. It's very possible, especially with some of the other guys surrounding him in this lineup. So why is he not my favorite pick out of the Phillies listed to lead the league in home runs? Yeah, well, the Phillies are going to be a tough team to bet on for that. And here's the reason. This division is tough pitching-wise. The Marlins, they're a young team, but they do have a solid young pitching staff and a solid young bullpen. The Nationals, kind of trash. Shouldn't be worried about them. But the Braves, a strong starting rotation. They're getting Mike Soroka back at some point. They have a solid bullpen. They have trust in each other because they're defending World Series champions. And the Mets have potentially the best starting rotation in baseball when it comes to their pitchers. A solid bullpen as well. Steve Cohen has built a monster when it comes to what he's got trotting out on the mound up there in New York. So it's just victim of circumstance. Bryce Harper is getting good odds because he's a great player and he's going to hit a bunch of home runs. We'll talk more about his number for how many he's going to hit or projected to hit in a little bit. But I don't love it just because you're not getting all that much payout in what seems to be a little bit of a longer odds bet than what you're getting at 14-1. Now, the next highest guy is Kyle Schwarber, who's significantly further down the list, but he's got 28-1 odds to lead the league in home runs. That piques my interest a little bit. I look at Kyle Schwarber as a guy who leaves the yard a lot, and that's in towns like Chicago, towns like Boston, towns like Washington, where spending, of course, most of his time in Chicago. Sometimes the wind blows out there to right. Sometimes the wind completely knocks the ball down when you play at Wrigley. Now he's playing in a bandbox here in Philadelphia where you can just put the ball out of right field, no problem. We've seen the days of old with Ryan Howard putting the ball into the third deck. Well, Kyle Schwarber is going to hit some of those shots this year. 28-1 is interesting, but I don't know. I got my eyes on somebody else. Even though 28-1 is better odds than Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber can still hit him out, there's another guy on this list that I'm looking at as the best bang for your buck. Nick Castellanos is another guy here. He's 66-1. So huge odds. You can make a boatload of money. If Nick Castellanos just goes off and leads the league in home runs somehow, gets really hot, this new lineup, and his want to play playoff baseball, his addiction to winning is just something that you really believe in and you think is going to power him to his best year ever as a professional hitter. Sure, go ahead, but I don't really think Castellanos is that guy. He's a great hitter. He's going to hit for better average than maybe all of these guys, including Bryce Harper. They're going to be neck and neck there as far as their overall hitting ability. But I just don't see Castellanos with enough pop, especially if I think he's going to be in the cleanup spot. I think there could be a lot of times where he's worked around, especially if you're starting, like you've need to get one out, and Rhys Hoskins is the guy trailing him. A lot of teams are going to rather work with Rhys Hoskins. So 66-1, it's a long shot. Maybe it's something to throw $1 on, but the guy I just mentioned, he's my pick for where you throw your money. Rhys Hoskins is even with Nick Castellanos at 66-1 odds to lead the league in home runs. It's a huge payout. I don't think it's going to happen. But for the money you get, he's where I would place my wager because of one reason. Bryce Harper is the top option. Kyle Schwarber is the second option. Nick Castellanos, the third option. Rhys Hoskins is a bona fide power hitter in the major leagues. He got hot down near the end of last year, and we've seen him get hot multiple times when he first came up as a rookie and the end of last year, where he had that potential to just go on fire and lead the league in home runs with that type of pace. Well, now he's the fourth option on the team, and that means he's forgotten about. A lot of opportunity there, especially batting in the 5 or the 6 hole where it looks like he's going to slot in. I love Reese's value there. Don't put a hefty wager, but that's the guy of all 4 of those guys listed. And they're the only 4 that were on the list that BetOnline sent for the top guys. He's the guy that I'm looking at to throw your money on. Now let's look at some of their individual home run numbers. Now, Rhys Hoskins not listed here with the numbers that BetOnline went with the top guys. It's part of the reason he was tied for the lowest odds out of the 4 to lead the league in home runs. But let's look at the actual numbers on homers and RBIs, starting with Bryce Harper. And these are over-unders. So very simple, up, down, better, worse. Well, Harper's numbers for over-under, let's start with home runs. He's got 36.5 homers as his over-under. Let's go ahead and take a peek at what he did last year as far as home runs when he had his MVP season. Well, he had 42 back in 2015, his first MVP campaign. Last year, hit 35. Is he going to hit more this year? I find it really tough to look at this lineup and say Bryce Harper's going to hit more home runs because there's so many high home run guys that one of them's got a slump, and I think Bryce is going to be in a lot more of a get-on-base role, seeing that he has Nick Castellanos behind him, going under on the home runs, but I'm going over on the RBIs. 100.5 RBIs is the line. I'm going 101 plus for Bryce just because of how much better this lineup is, and with the better bats being able to bat ahead of him. The JT Realmuto and Kyle Schwarber, which I think slots 2-1 in order for those guys. I think it leads to a lot more RBI opportunities, and this team's just going to be better. Better team, more RBIs for your star players. Over on that. Kyle Schwarber, over under 34.5 home runs. I'm taking the over on that. I think he might actually lead this team in home runs. I know I just said Rhys Hoskins is your bet for leading the league in home runs. That's because of the value, not because of the number. Schwarber, I'm going over. I think he could be pushing 40 home runs when everything's said and done. RBIs, 85.5. I think that's a little bit of a low number too because he's not as much of a contact hitter. But with all those home runs, I think he's going to get there, especially batting leadoff and probably leading this team in at bats. Yeah, I'll take that. Nick Castellanos numbers, 31.5 homers. I'm going over on that one too, but only slightly. I could see him getting 31 or 32. I'm playing the odds that he's going to be hyped up this year to play on a competitive winning baseball team. 95.5 RBIs, though. I'm going under on that. Even though he's in the cleanup spot, I think Bryce Harper is going to vulture a lot of RBIs from him. So we're going to go under on the 95.5 RBIs for Nick Castellanos. And the final one, the big one here, the win total for the Phillies sits at 86.5. And I said this on the John Kincaid Show on 97.5 The Fanatic earlier this morning. Hammer that over. This team is an 88, 89 win team. I don't want to say easily, but they better hit that number. With the money they invested, they won 82 games last year, and they just brought in two guys who are projected, let's say they hit the number right on the head, 34 and a half, 31 and a half. That's 65 home runs that are being added. Plus, you've got the reigning NL Cy Young runner-up. You have some projected growth from a guy. Ranger Suarez was amazing, but he's going to get more comfortable. Zach Eflin looks like he's poised for another solid year. And then you've got Kyle Gibson will be here for a full year. Aaron Nola, hopefully, for a bounce back. I mean, all signs point to this team being above 500. They better be. But I like them to go ahead and beat up on the Nationals, take care of the Marlins, and do pretty well outside of the division. Yeah, it's a tough division. Yeah, teams in this division are going to beat each other up. But I'm taking the over on that win total, and I take the over all the way up to 88 and a half because I like this team to be 89 wins or higher when everything's all said and done. The issue is the mark may be 90 to get them into the playoffs, and they may have to win 90 games to even finish in second in the division. But I have faith in them to at least get to that 89 mark, and that catches your 86 and a half over. I've already put money on it myself, so my money is right where my mouth is. You can trust me on that one. I don't know that I'm right, but I think that I am. So that's where I'd lay your money. Thank you again to our friends over at BetOnline for all of that information on the odds heading into the MLB season with opening day just 8 days away. Coming up, though, it'll happen before opening day. We're rounding out our Final Four. Well, we're starting our Final Four for the top 8 Phillies moments. I'll tell you about that as we come back and go through what the matchups are for this next round. First, though, I want to tell you about my friends over at BetOnline. Yes, they just brought us all those odds we were just talking about. And after months of playing, college basketball has finally determined the top teams for the Final Four. They'll determine this year's national champion down in New Orleans this week. So you want to go ahead and check out betonline.net because they're your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. They just gave us that entire first segment. They're awesome. They've got literally everything on the latest odds and props. You just name it. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your latest sports developments, including podcasts and reviews for all the leagues this season. It's not just basketball. It's not just baseball. BetOnline has everything, including your favorite Vegas casino games. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so it's time for the Final Four, not just in NCAA, but for our top 8 moments in Philadelphia Phillies history. We have our winner. First, let me announce the winner of Game 4, which we did over the past couple of days. The two competitors, Roy Halladay's playoff no-hitter against the Cincinnati Reds in 2010. That was the 4 seed against Matt Stairs' home run against the Dodgers in the 2008 NLCS. You know that one. Stairs rips one into the night. And of course, we all remember Roy Halladay's no-hitter, the only playoff no-hitter in Philadelphia Phillies history, and one of 2 in Major League history, the other one being a perfect game in the World Series. But Halladay's feat, impressive, of course, once in a lifetime, and moved on easily. Took home 70% of the vote in that matchup against Matt Stairs. And all due respect to Matt Stairs, an amazing moment, but it was never going to compete with that performance from Doc. So there you have it. Doc moves on. We've got a 4 seed in to the Final Four. So let's run down the lineup of what we have as far as teams that are in for our Final Four in the top 8 moments in Philadelphia Phillies history bracket. So first off, our 1 overall seed rolled 67% to 33% over Bryce Harper's walk-off grand slam. And that means winning the World Series in 1980 moves on to the Final Four. The 08 World Series won with 98% of its vote against Jimmy Rollins' walk-off double in 2009 against the Dodgers in the NLCS. So both World Series, the top 2 seeds, are on to the Final Four. Shane Victorino's grand slam, a 6 seed, was the only upset of the first round, taking out Manny Trio's triple during the 1980 World Series run. Took home 87% of that vote. A huge moment. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that one. And then, like I just said, Roy Halladay's playoff no-hitter went ahead and knocked off Matt Stairs, so it moves on. We do not reseed. We do it just like the tournament. So the first matchup will be the World Series win in 1980 versus Roy Halladay's playoff no-hitter. I'm calling my shot now, folks. I think Halladay takes this one home. I think there's a little bit of a bias against the memories from 1980 because a lot of people on Twitter are younger, and we forget as time goes on how special these moments were to us. the present always holds more weight than the past, unfortunately, whether right or wrong. So I think that the more recent one, and especially everything going on with Doc and his unfortunate, untimely passing, which just lends so much more emotion to some of the great performances he put together as a Philadelphia Philly. I like Doc in that one, but we'll see. It's up to you. We'll put out the Twitter poll for that one when this show is over, and we'll go ahead and have those results either tomorrow or on Monday as we wrap that up. And then in our second matchup in the Final Four, we've got the 2008 World Series, the 2 seed, taking on the Shane Victorino Grand Slam in 2008 off of CC Sabathia in the NLDS against the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, this is an interesting one. It's a 2-6, so signs point to the World Series in 2008, and the Shane Victorino Grand Slam, it was part of that run to the 2008 World Series. So what's more important, winning it all or one of the huge moments that help you get to winning it all? I mean, you don't get there without the Shane Victorino Grand Slam. It was part of it. Well, you might still. But, you know, of course, don't take home the trophy if you don't finish in the World Series against the Tampa Bay Devil Rays at the time, now the Tampa Bay Rays. So, hey, it's interesting. We'll go ahead and check that out. Were they still the Devil Rays? They might have been the Rays at that point. Side tangent we don't need to go into. But that's our other matchup, the 2-seed World Series in 2008 versus the 6-seed Shane Victorino Grand Slam. And then after that, we'll try and get that finished up by tomorrow's show so we could give, well, finish all that up by Monday. So we could give a full 2 days for the championship matchup. And on opening day, that's right, we'll have a little bit of something special that I prepared for you, and I'll tell you about that in the next segment. But we'll be able to crown the champion just as we head into the 2022 MLB season. So that's where we stand. A lot of great moments still left on the board. Those four, I think the four most deserving. A lot of people were complaining about the matchups with like Bryce Harper's walk-off grand slam, probably being able to take out some of the other higher seeds. But unfortunately, hey, that's how I set up the bracket. And we can try and do it next year. Maybe we'll expand to 16 next year if there's a lot more moments, and maybe we'll get a seminal moment from the Phillies this year in 2022. But as it stands, that's where our bracket is, and we'll finish that out over the coming days. A lot of fun stuff to get into still with that bracket, and I have something special for the greatest moment in Philadelphia Phillies that we go into when that is officially named. I have my hunches on what's that's going to be. Coming up next, I'm going to tell you about a special way we're going to get content. I'm going to introduce something new to you. It has to do with a little bit of the YouTube. If you're not subscribed on the YouTube, you're going to want to be tuned in coming up. And if you are subscribed, make sure you're still locked in because you all play an important part in how we're going to do this. It's a fun little twist on how I'm going to do some bonus content for you. I'll tell you about that in a second. Real quick, before we get into that, just a quick look at the Phillies game from today. We'll take a deeper dive into this one tomorrow. The Phillies beat the Yankees. Gene Segura homered in the third inning to make it 1-0. Bryce Harper homered again. Nick Castellanos with another RBI. Mickey Moniak with an RBI scoring Bryson Stott. Seeing a little bit of maybe the future of Phillies baseball. Some interesting stuff. So on tomorrow's episode, we're going to break down the full stuff from Yankees-Phillies as we get closer to opening day. 8 days from today till opening day, 7 days from tomorrow, as the Phillies prepare to play the Oakland Athletics in Philadelphia so not like tomorrow, but next Friday. So get ready. When you hear tomorrow's episode, you're going to have a week. We're a week away from Phillies baseball. That's some awesome stuff. And as we prepare for the season, there's going to be some amazing new content that I've got getting ready for you. Let me tell you about some of the stuff that we're doing extra. So there's some extras that I even have already. A crossover episode with another one of the hosts from the NL East. A crossover episode with Lindsey Crosby from MLB Prospects. And I do want to let you know, Locked On MLB Prospects, it's amazing. Thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. But Locked On MLB Prospects with Lindsey Crosby, you should check that out too. He's going deep dive into some of the stars of tomorrow, like the Bryson Stotts, not so much Mickey Moniak anymore, but we talked Matt Vierling when we did the crossover, and there's a little bit of extra there that we'll have on this show. But go ahead and check out Lindsey Crosby on Locked On MLB Prospects. He's a prospect encyclopedia, and it's awesome. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. But we have some bonus content from that crossover. I always keep a little bit of bonus content in the back pocket, just in case, as a little bit of an incentive. Of course, we're still going to have these daily episodes. And I don't want you to feel like I'm keeping great content from you because we're going to release it. Because I know you guys are going to hold up your end of the bargain as we do this. There's going to be special interviews throughout the season. There's going to be player interviews. There's going to be, there might be former coach interviews. I'm actually, I've had a little bit of contact in the past with Charlie Manuel. Talk to Charlie every once in a while. I'll shoot him a text. We're not like best friends, even though I'd love to be. He's an amazing guy, but we do have a little bit of that relationship. Charlie could easily be on the program someday. Over at 97.5 The Fanatic this morning, Ricky Bottalico, who was an all-star reliever for the Phillies in 1996. He reminded me this morning how he should have been an all-star in 95 as well. Me and Ricky have a great relationship. Would love to get him on here someday. Fully believe that that's a possibility. And he does the pre and post game for NBC Sports Philadelphia, has great thoughts on the team. Of course, a former major league player. And who knows, might have some minor leaguers and major leaguer current players that could stop by. So I'm going to have all this great content for you, but there's something that I want to do. In general, we'll still be doing 5 shows a week. You're still going to be getting great content, but we got to grow the YouTube. We got to get people subscribing, following, and you guys have already been doing a great job with that. So thank you so much. It's been exponential growth, and it's awesome. Continue to subscribe, because as we go and get on the route of growing our subscription base to allow me to put out better content for you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set different milestones for subscribers. So like, for example, when we hit 250 subscribers, I'm going to go ahead and drop a look at a special minor league player that me and Lindsey Crosby from Locked On MLB Prospects went through and did additional content on when we did that crossover. 500 is going to be another drop, 750, 1,000. And we go through, and might be little instances, increments in between, rather, that we release other stuff on. So I'm going to go ahead and have different milestones for subscribers. It's kind of like a quid pro quo. You scratch my back and Locked On Phillies back by subscribing, and I go ahead and I give you some of that special bonus content that I know you, as a diehard Philadelphia Phillies fan, are craving. And of course, when we get stuff, it's not like I'm going to hold a Bryce Harper interview if I get an interview with Bryce Harper for a month waiting for a certain number of people to subscribe. But there's going to be certain bonus content on top of the actual stuff that we put out for each of those interviews and episodes and special crossovers that will be brought out as we get into certain tiers of subscribers. So I want to bring that up. And that was just a taste, like Ricky Bo, Charlie Manuel, maybe some players, some minor leaguers, because I do have some buddies that play minor league baseball that are familiar with some players in the Philadelphia Phillies system, and got the media credential now. So I'll be down there at the yard. I'll have the chance to talk to them, the chance to have some media availability time. So all of that, a lot of great content. Again, I don't want you to feel like I'm holding it from you, because if I was to do an interview with one of these guys, you'll get the interview. But there just might be 5 extra minutes that I save just for when we hit these special times. And they're going to be later things, messing around, fun stuff. Bryce Harper talks about his haircut. Ricky Bo talks about his least favorite batter he ever faced when he was in the majors. Charlie Manuel talks about what former player of his he'd want to go have a beer with. Stuff like that. So all of that will be coming to you as we go through stuff of that nature. I don't want to promise those specific things because I got to get everything squared away. But that's the type of vein I'm talking about as we go through the season and continue to put out great content for you. So that's stuff to look forward to, and I will let you know as we get up on those milestones and how we get everything squared away with that. So just wanted to update you on what we're doing and what we have in the works behind the scenes here at Locked On Phillies to continue to bring you the best Phillies content on the planet day in and day out. All right, that's all I've got for you today. On tomorrow's episode, we'll go through in depth that Phillies-Yankees game that I just talked about. We'll go through a little bit on the top 8 moments, and we'll start the Final Four. Well, we'll actually have our first matchup put out as a Twitter poll, and we'll talk about the results from those on tomorrow's episode. I'll do that next. We'll set up off the poll for the weekend, the segment where we go through and ask you a poll question as we get closer to opening day. Even better content on the polls for what you want to see happen. Got some interesting stuff all set up for that to get you ready to head into the weekend. And folks, tomorrow, our last Friday without Phillies baseball for months. It's our last Friday before opening day Friday. So get excited. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. I'm almost going to go to bed right now so I can just wake up and do more content for you. It's awesome. So make sure you're tuned in tomorrow. I want to thank you one more time for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB with Paul Francis Sullivan. We call him Sully. He's great. He knows everything about the MLB, past and present. I call Lindsey Crosby an encyclopedia of prospects. Well, Sully is an encyclopedia of baseball. He's got everything you need to know. So go check out Locked On MLB. Make it your second listen. That's awesome. And please, I know I brought it up already multiple times this episode. Go rate, review wherever you get your podcast, rate and review on YouTube, subscribe, smash that 5 stars. Go ahead and put your comments in, because tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be doing the first Comment Friday, where I jump in and I go through your comments that are on the YouTube videos and everything. It's hard to get back to you immediately because you make comments throughout the day, but we have that hour long where I'll try to get to as many comments as you guys have made as possible. So we got all of that coming up. So make sure you're locked into all of our socials at LO_Phillies on Twitter, at Connor Thomas 975 on Twitter. All of that, great places to consume the content. And I want to thank you again for listening today. I will talk to you all tomorrow.